Well, welcome everybody. This is meeting number 4, Monday, April 12th, 2021. My name's Councillor William Riley. I'll be the chair of this meeting. This is just a note to the public that due to the efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and protect all individuals, the council chambers will not be open to the public to attend the standing committee and council meetings until further notice. The public may submit their comments that are on the agenda to jdyson@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Comments submitted may be considered as public information and read into the public. The meeting will be recorded and available on the township website within 48 hours of the meeting unless otherwise noted. So at this point, I'll look around the room to see if there's any disclosure of any pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Not seeing any. We're going to move forward to our public meetings. Tonight we have 2 public meetings. The first meeting is a consultation meeting under the consultation process for wireless telecommunications facilities. It's in Forbes Brothers Limited for Explorenet communications facility proposal location at 9257 Regional Road 20 in Smithville. And the purpose of this meeting is to give an opportunity for the public and committee to provide their comments and ask questions regarding an application that has been made by Forbes Brothers Limited on behalf of Explorenet Communications for the installation and operation of a communications facility located at 9257 Regional Road 20 in Smithville, Ontario. In accordance to the township policy, the Township of West Lincoln is required to host a consultation meeting to receive input from the public and the committee on the installation and operation of proposed wireless communications. In accordance with the township policy, notice of consultation meeting as well as information package was mailed out to all property owners within 120 meters of the tower structure location. So at this point, I will go to the Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, to please explain the purpose and reason for this proposed communications facility made by the Forbes Brothers Limited on behalf of Explorenet Communications located at 9757 Regional Road 20.
So on behalf of the director and through the chair, I'll go over the overview of it. So an application to construct a 45-meter tall communications tower on the property of 9257 Regional Road 20 for communications purposes has been submitted by the Industry Canada on behalf of Explorenet by their consultant, Sarah Duncan, and she's here today and she'll be doing a presentation also. The township does not have final decision-making powers on the approval of the communication tower, as it is the responsibility of the federal government through Industry Canada. The township is only able to regulate it through some process, sort of as a site plan. A recommendation report will be forthcoming following the public meeting today.
Excellent, thank you. And I'll go to, you said the representative was here, so at this time we'll let the applicant or their authorized agent to speak on behalf of this application.
Thank you very much, and through you, Councillor. My name is Sarah Duncan, and I'm representing Explorenet Communications tonight. I work for Forbes Brothers, and we've been contracted by Explorenet to work on their build and expansion of the broadband network within Ontario. A lot of these sites that we're proposing in your municipality, as well as many others, are somewhat expansion, but mostly to offload congestion and capacity on the sites, as we're seeing obviously a lot more people working from home, a lot more schooling from home, and obviously trying to reach those areas where the fiber networks aren't quite there yet. So this proposal is for a 45-meter tower. There will be no lights on it. Transport Canada does not require any lighting at this height. And the leased area that we have from the landowner is about 15 meters by 15 meters. However, the face of the tower is about 3 meters. So we don't use all of the land. That's just leased area for us to work around. Obviously, before proposing a brand new tower, we do look to co-locate. And in this case, we looked within a kilometer radius of where we're proposing the site on Regional Road 20, and there is nothing, no other infrastructure for us to locate on there. Obviously, with the building of this new tower, if another broadband company, say your own fire department or emergency services wanted to co-locate on the tower, that would certainly be a possible option for anybody future coming into the area. As Megan mentioned, we did a pre-consult meeting February 4th. Notifications were sent out by the municipality, as well as we put an ad in the newspaper in the Niagara this week. And all comments closed April 5th. And I did not receive any comments from the public. And Megan, I think up until when I spoke with her last Friday, had not received any either. So we've had no feedback from the public. And that basically, I guess from, as I mentioned, the need for this site is that it would reduce congestion, provide more capacity, and basically from our engineers, they've looked at the area and found that there's about 900 properties or households that would be serviced by this new broadband tower.
Excellent.
So that's all. Any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Perfect. Maybe we'll just have you hang tight there for a minute. And so at this point, I'm going to go around and ask if there's any oral written submissions from anyone present on the Zoom meeting regarding the proposed communications facility. Members of the public should keep in mind that this meeting is anticipated to be the final public meeting, and therefore this may be your final opportunity to provide any oral or written comments to the township with respect to this application. If any members of the public that are in attendance at the Zoom meeting, public meeting, would like to make their comments and or provide their written comments, they should do so now by using one of the two options. If they're using a computer or a smartphone, you're going to click the raise your hand control found within the Zoom options listed on your screen there. Or two, you're using a landline, you're going to dial *9, and this will notify staff that you've raised your hand and you have a question to ask. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, please unmute your microphone, and then once you're finished, we're going to ask that you mute that again. And before everybody speaks, if they can give us their name and their address for the record, that would be great. So at this point, I'll wait a second, see if there's any hands that go up in the room. And if I'll also ask IT to confirm that in case I'm not seeing it here. So not seeing any. I'll give one more second. I will note that, oh, actually he's back. Our director had popped off for a second with some internet issues, but he's back. So, all right. So that being the case, I still don't see any hands. So we're going to move forward to members of committee. Members of committee, do any members of committee have any oral written submissions on the proposed facilities? Any member of committee, geez, my goodness, any member of council wishing to speak are required to unmute their microphone and talk. And once they're finished, they should mute the microphone again. So at this point, are there any members of committee here that would like to ask any questions or share any comments?
Mr. Chair?
Okay, Councilor Rayner, you may proceed.
Yes, just to let you know, we have trouble with the camera. The camera will not work. We've been fiddling and fiddling and fiddling with it, and the camera will not work. So at least I can hear and you can hear me. So sorry, that's all I got to go on right now. Anyways, if I may ask a question through to Sarah, how did you pick this spot? I'm just curious. Do you go with instrumentation and tracking and see where's the best location that would serve the most people, or what's the process?
Through the chair to Councillor, the RF engineers that are designing the network, we already have two existing sites that are one to the north, Winona, and the other Plazic down at the bottom, or south on my map, I guess. And what they will do is they will look to see within those existing sites, they'll use they have internal, they call them, what do they call them? Radio plots that they will then look at to see where is the best location between these existing sites to create a new location. And then what they do is they give our team what's called a search area. So they usually give us about a 300-meter radius from an optimal point to look for properties that have higher land, easy access from roads and whatnot to meet that coverage requirement. So that's what limits where we can and cannot go. They also do look to see where, they're going to get the largest volume of traffic, being residences, but it is determined by where the existing sites are in the network.
All right, one further question through you, Mr. Chair. What if all the people in the area say no? I mean, you're building them on land. Do you ever have a situation like that where you get a spot, or is the financial reward enough to change people's minds?
Oh, you mean from the landowner? Yes, we've
Right.
often had locations where the landowner is not interested, and many landowners may not be interested. Then we just have to work with engineering to see if they will give us a little bit more flexibility and where we can look and try and increase that search area. But I mean, we've never gotten to the point where we couldn't actually secure a property, but it would make it definitely a challenge for engineering to have to keep going back and looking for new locations.
Right. Thank you very much.
I know. Councillor Trombetta, I believe I saw your hand up there.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Duncan. Just curious, I know ExploreNet is coming from obviously the rural area, and this is how much is this improving the area? And I've had a lot of constituents, and please, this is nothing personal. I've had a lot of constituents approach me about the service with ExploreNet, how it is not very good in our area. And now to see another tower, I know a lot of people have switched over to a competitor, and to see another tower, and then obviously the SWIFT program is, I'm not too sure if it's coming through that area. I didn't cross-reference the SWIFT program, but I'm just curious. I understand you have a 300-meter radius, but again, I know a lot of people that I've promoted ExploreNet and then came back to me and said they don't have the proper service. Is there any service improvement, or is it still just a basic Wi-Fi kind of satellite signal on a tower? That's what I'm looking at here.
Yes. No, and in fairness and no offense taken, we have heard concerns about ExploreNet's service, and that is why they are building these locations, is to offload the challenges with capacity in these locations. And that's why people would be seeing much slower speeds and not being satisfied with the service in their area. The goal of building all of these new locations is to get the bandwidth up so that speeds will be faster and more customers can be on the sites. I mean, I think right now they're looking at 50 megabits, I think upload and 100 download. But until the site is in the area and operational, they have to see what traffic will flow to that site, and then they can reroute existing customers who might be better off on a tower to the north, and then keep the existing newer customers on the proposed tower. So once it's up and operational, they will juggle people around, and hopefully that will improve people's service.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that update, Ms. Duncan. Appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Is there any other members of committee that like to have a question or a comment to make? I'll note for the record that Councillor Yonker has made it. He's driving truck there, so he's multitasking. Excellent. So that being the case, I'll move forward. So the report consideration, please be advised that a technical report is being considered by committee this evening, and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming at a future committee and or a council meeting. If members of the public wish to be notified of council's decision, they are to contact or email the town clerk at Joanne Shime, so jshime, sorry, at westlincoln.ca. Anyone interested in observing council and or committee discussions about the particular bylaw should also not solely rely on mail notices, thus miss the opportunity to attend applicable meetings. It's suggested that you watch the township website for postings of agendas and to review items that will be discussed at council and or committee. The agendas for meetings are posted on the township website after 4 p.m. on Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules as noted on the township website for public view. If you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you contact the township clerk and advise them of your request, and include your email along with the mailing address and phone number so that they can reach you. So at this point, this meeting with respect to the proposed communications facility submitted by Forbes Brothers Inc. I think it's supposed to be limited. On behalf of ExploreNet Communications for the property located at 9257 Regional Road 20, Smithville, Ontario, is concluded at the hour of 6:45 p.m. So we're going to go to our second public meeting here in 1 second. All right, so thank you, Ms. Duncan. Sorry, I kind of jumped out of there, but if you hang tight, we will eventually get to that technical report. All right, so at this point, moving forward, we're, let me just get my things in order here. Under 3.2, amendment to the building fee bylaw, re-proposed fee increases to the building bylaw schedule of fees. So this public meeting is being held to meet the requirements of the Ontario Building Code Act, SO 1992, C Section 23 as amended. This is a public meeting to present an increase in building fees prior to the passage of a new bylaw. Under the building code requirements, Section 7(6)B of the Ontario Building Code Act 1992 requires that before passing a bylaw, regulation, or resolution, council must hold a public meeting at which any person who attends has an opportunity to make a representation with respect to the proposed changes to the municipal bylaw. In accordance to Section 7, subsection 6A of the Building Code 1992, public notice of this meeting was given by way of advertisement in local newspapers on March 16th, 2021, as well as advertised on the township website. The purpose of the public meeting at this point, I'm going to ask the Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, to please explain the purpose and reason of the proposed amendment to the building fee bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Building Code Act requires that the building department operate on its own financial resources. And in theory, the building permit fees should be sufficient revenue to cover the operational costs of that department. Historically, we have had a healthy reserve, but it was built mainly because of revenues received from the wind turbines back several years ago. Since then, we have been holding our own until the last couple of years, but in the last 2 years, we've had to borrow from reserves to, excuse me, balance our budget at the end of the year. And this year, we just recently went through the budgeting process, and our treasurer had to put $370,000 from the reserve into the revenue line in order to help balance the budget. So we have not had a fee increase in the building department in about 5 years. I was going to say over 5 years. It's right around the 5-year mark. And so staff have done a review and are recommending that the fees should be increased. But the increase in the fee is to be based on what we anticipate to be the costs of that department. So in review, it looks like about a 15% increase is probably in order to make sure that our revenues are able to sustain the department. And at the same time, we have to start planning for future growth of the department as the urban boundary adjusts and permits start to increase. Just as a comparator, this is not how we have to make our decision, but as a comparator, the current fee for a single family dwelling, you'll find it on page 29 of the committee report or the committee package. Right now, if you were to apply for a single family dwelling in West Lincoln, your building permit fee is probably around $4,600. That same house in Pelham, as an example, would be basically double that at $8,800. If we increase by 15%, it puts the West Lincoln fee up by about $1,000 and still leaves us as the second lowest of the ones that I studied, which are our immediate neighbors on all sides of us. So in my review, Mr. Chair, the proposal, although it sounds large, is not substantive. In fact, we are better to be doing a, say, 2% increase per year, representing the increase in costs of operating, and not doing a 15% in one shot. And my recommendation going forward would be that we do sort of an annual increase each year to the permitting fee. But this is hopefully a one-time catch-up recommendation. And from that point forward, Mr. Chair, we'd have to hold a public meeting, but the plan is to do, say, a 2% or whatever the cost of living increase would look like in the future. So I'll perhaps stop there, Mr. Chair, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Before we get to committee members here, I guess I'll go to the public first. Are there any oral written submissions from anyone present on the Zoom meeting regarding the proposed amendments to the building fee bylaw? If any members of the public that are in attendance of this at this Zoom meeting would like to make comments or provide a written comment, they should do so now by using one of the two options. If you have a computer or smartphone, you're going to click the raise your hand control that it can be found on the Zoom options list below. Or two, if you have a landline and you called in here, which I don't think we have, but I'll mention it anyways, you're gonna dial *9. This will notify staff to that you've raised your hand. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, please unmute your microphone, and once you finish, you're gonna remute your microphone. And then prior to speaking, as always, we do ask that you provide us with your name, your address for the public record. So at this point, are there any members of the public that would like to have their questions or comments on the record there? I see one little, oh, that's somebody else. So, all right, so I'm going to take a quick gander through the room here. So not seeing anybody. So at this point, I will go to members of committee. Do any members of committee have any oral written submissions on the proposed amendments to the building fee bylaw? So members of committee, anybody have any questions? Oh, I have Councillor Ganan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that I am very much in support of this recommendation going forward. I particularly like that we will not look again at such a large jump. It makes very good sense to be moving forward according to costs. And I'm really happy to see that that's part of the suggestion. We certainly do need to make sure that this department is capable of managing on its own and covering its costs. And we know very well through budgetary this year and last year, both processes, that's not so at this time. So I thank staff for coming up with this at this point, and also for looking at the future way of dealing with this issue. That's all. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And I agree. Any other members of committee? Not seeing any. So at this point, I'll go forward and say that please be advised that technical report is being considered by the committee this evening, and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future committee and or a council meeting if members of the public wish to be notified of council's decision. We encourage you to reach out to the township clerk and provide her with your email, phone number, and mailing address. If you wish to email them, it's going to be jshime@westlincoln.ca. So at this point, I'm going to with respect to the proposed amendments to the building fee bylaw is going to be concluded at the hour of 6:53 p.m. All right. So thank you very much for that, Brian. So we're going to move forward, and so I guess the next order of business. Do any members of committee have a change in order of items on the agenda? Number 4, not seeing any. Appointments, not obviously none. So at this point, anybody in the public who wishes to address items on the agenda, this is your chance here under section 1013, 5 and 6, general rules. 1 hour in total shall be allocated for this section of the agenda, and each individual person shall only be provided 5 minutes to address their issue. Some exceptions may apply, and we'll explain those then. As a response may not be provided, so clarify that a response may not be provided on a matter, but may be referred to staff. A person who wishes to discuss a planning application or a matter that can be appealed will be permitted to speak for upwards of 10 minutes. So at this point, do any members in the virtual gallery here like to address any items on the agenda? So I see one hand up. Oh, I have a Jared Marcus, so I will allow to talk there, see if I did that correctly.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Good, I'm doing really well, thank you.
Good stuff. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm hoping to have a moment to speak to, I believe it's item 9.6 on the agenda. It's regarding 6659 Regional Road 20.
You're more than welcome to proceed.
Great, thank you very much. So as you're all likely aware, IBI Group recently submitted official plan and zoning amendment applications to change a portion of the of these lands from institutional to residential. That's an area of about 0.56 of a hectare at the northerly portion of this subject lands. And that would allow for those lands to merge with the adjacent Mars Homes subdivision and would allow for future low density housing. And we would note that those applications did not seek any site-specific modifications from the parent official plan and zoning bylaw. As you know, concurrent severance application was also submitted for that 0.56 hectare parcel of land, and that application was conditionally approved by the Committee of Adjustment on March 31st. And upon completion of all those conditions of approval, those lands will be merged with the adjacent subdivision. As you know, a public meeting was also held for these applications on March 8th, and that no members of the public were present at that hearing to speak to it, nor were any members present at the severance hearing to speak. And we'd also note that in the staff report before you tonight, no agency or departments have raised any concerns with the proposed amendments. We have read the staff report before you tonight, and we agree with the findings from staff that the applications conform to the provincial and regional policy and that they're consistent with the intent of the township's official plan and zoning bylaw. And we agree with the staff recommendation for approval of these applications. We would just like to thank staff for their quick efforts to move these applications forward. And if there are any questions from the committee on that report later on, we'll be present to answer any questions. So thank you for your time.
Excellent, thank you. And then I'm going to just go back to the gallery one more time. Anybody else would like to address anything else on the agenda? This is your one chance to do it. And not seeing any, so we're going to move forward. And Jared, I'm just going to ask you to unraise your hand when you get a chance. Okay, so moving to consent agenda items, all items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial and can be approved by one resolution. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests it, and in which case the item will be removed from the consent resolution and considered immediately following the adoption of the remaining consent agenda items. So the recommendation that Planning, Building, Environmental Committee hereby approves the following consent items. Items 1, 2, and 3, and 4B and are hereby received for information with the exceptions of the following items, and there's currently none. The technical report PD-40-2021, proposed street naming of Griffin Street North and Griffin Street South, Regional Road 14. Number 2, technical report PD-47-2021, Xplornet Communications Inc., Tower 9757, Regional Road 20, public meeting, file number 2100-00421. And 3, technical report PD 51-2021, building fees bylaw review. And finally, 4, information report PD-41-2021, update relating to residential lot inventory for the Smithville settlement area in compliance analysis with a place to grow P2G plan. So at this point, I guess I need somebody to move that. I have Councilor Ganam and Mayor Billisma is going to second it. Any items that we like pulled? Not seeing any. All right, give you an extra beat there. And then all those in favor? Perfect. Opposed? Okay, not hearing Councilor Rayner and Councilor Yonker. I don't know where your votes were in that situation, but I thought I'll just double check to make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, I'm gonna say that carries. We're gonna no communications tonight. So we're gonna move on to staff reports. Staff report P41-21. Planner 2, Madison Etzel, and Director of Planning, Brian Treble. Recommendation report number PD-46-2021, Faleria Holding Inc., site plan application authorization bylaw, Brian Getchy, agent John Kuwenberg. Apologies if I got that name wrong. Recommendation that PD-46-2021 regarding Faleria Holding Inc., site plan application authorizing bylaw, Brian Getchy and John Kuwenberg. It's a tongue twister for me tonight. Site plan dated April 12th, 2021 be received, and that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the site plan agreement with Fuleria Holding Inc., John Kutenberg, owner, and CIBC Bank mortgagee, once all site plan details are substantially completed. So if I can get somebody to move that for me. I have Mayor Bilsma and I have Councillor Braderick as a seconder. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Support.
Okay, any opposed? All right, that carries. We're gonna go to 9.2. PD 42, 2021, Planner 2, Madison Etzel, and Director of Planning Brian Treble, recommendation report, PD 45, 2021.
Is it
Oh.
Is it a toy? No. No,
Well.
what is it?
All right, so I just muted that. Zoning bylaw amendment file number 1601-003-21. Recommendation that report PD 45 2021 regarding Fuleria Holding Inc. zoning bylaw amendment file number 1601-003-21 dated April 12th, 2021 be approved, and that section 3417 of the Planning Act apply, and that no further public meeting is required, and that an application for a zoning bylaw amendment for 1601-003-21 be approved and passed, and that staff be authorized to circulate the notice of decision for the zoning bylaw amendment with the corresponding 20-day appeal period. So at this point, if I can get somebody to move that. Councillor Tremetta, seconder. I'm going to put Councillor Ganan. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing and hearing none, all those in favor? And opposed? All right, that carries. All right, moving forward to 9.3, item P4321, Planner 2, Madison Etzel, and Director of Building Brian Treble, recommendation report PD-44-2021, direction to proceed with public meeting for East Smithville Secondary Plan Preferred Concept. Recommendation that report PD 44-2021 regarding recommendation report direction to proceed with the public meeting for East Smithville Secondary Plan Preferred Concept dated April 12th, 2021 be received, and that staff be and are hereby directed to proceed with the East Smithville Secondary Plan Public Meeting on June 14th, 2021. Can I get a mover? All right, Councillor Braderick, and the second is Councillor Ganan. And any questions or comments? Not seeing or hearing any. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Support.
Okay, and opposed? All right, that carries. Moving forward, item 9.4, item P4421, Planner Garrett Borma and Director of Planning Building Brian Treble, a recommendation report number PD 36-2021, comprehensive zoning bylaw 2017-70 as amended, housekeeping amendments number 4. That the recommendation is PD 36-2021 regarding housekeeping amendments number 4 to the zoning bylaw 2017-70 as amended dated April 12th, 2021 be received, and that a virtual open house and public meeting be held as required by the Planning Act at a future Planning Building Environmental Committee meeting. So I'm going to need somebody to move that. Mayor Bilsma, seconder, Councillor Ganan. Any questions or comments? Not hearing any, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Support.
And opposed? All right, that carries. And then moving to 9.5, Planner 2, Garrett Borma again, and Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, recommendation report PD 37-2021, Niagara Region new official plan, township consultant review, recommendation that report PD 37-2021 regarding Niagara Region new official plan, township consultant review dated April 12th, 2021 be received, and that the township retain GSP Group for the purposes of reviewing the draft and final regional official plan once it's available for review and comment. So if I can get somebody to move that. I got Councillor Braderick and Councillor Ganan. All those in favor? Or sorry, I guess any questions or comments? Sorry, I kind of jumped the gun there.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you. Through to Mr. Treble, please. It says township to retain GSP Group for the purpose of reviewing the draft and final regional official plan. Why don't our staff review it? Why are we paying somebody else to review our stuff?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's two reasons that that I would indicate are reasons here. Number one, this is a massive review that the region is undertaking, and it's been underway for several years now, and they're hoping to bring it together quite quickly this year. So quite frankly, I'm concerned that with our staff resources and how busy we are processing day-to-day permit applications and planning applications, that we might not be able to give it the full review it deserves. And number two, there is a significant linkage between this work and the region's work, I should say, and our work around reviewing the master community plan work for future growth of the Smithville area in West Lincoln. So there's a strong relationship between that work. Our consultant is going to be doing a review anyway, and we just need them to have a lens to make sure that it's regional policy work that is good for the township. And just as an example through you, Mr. Chair, I know already, and a couple of us have had some briefings from the region already, the environmental policy approach is already generating quite a bit of discussion from other municipalities, and is something that we want to make sure whatever decision is made by the region is made that makes sense for West Lincoln as well. So it's a big project, and I think we just need that extra set of eyes.
Anything else, Councillor?
No, I just, every time the region's up to something, I just have a concern, that's all. So I would feel, if we've got somebody we have to spend some money on, I guess that's fine, but I feel more comfortable when our staff is really reviewing it in the best interest of West Lincoln, not necessarily the region of Niagara. Yeah, I just, like I say, I just get uncomfortable when the region gets involved in things. But anyways, all right, that's good enough for now. Thank you.
Okay, if it's going to give you a peace of mind, this is obviously going to come back to council, so you'll be able to set your eyes on it as well at some point too. So, Councillor Ganam. Oh.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to actually thank Councilor Rayner for that question. I think we had the advantage, you and I, of sitting with Mr. Treble through a pre-consultation and a pre-agenda meeting, and so that was explained. So I am happy that our director had an opportunity to explain the benefits of having another set of eyes on this situation. So thank you for that.
Excellent. So I'm just doing a quick refresh here. I see my computer slowing down, so I wonder if it's my Wi-Fi's next. All right, so any other questions or comments? Not seeing any, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Support.
And opposed? Seeing none. Okay, that carries. Okay, so where did I leave off? Okay, perfect. So moving to 9.6. P4621. Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, recommendation report, PD 35, 2021, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment for 6659 Regional Road 20, Greek Association and Mars Home, Smithville West, Inc., file number 17010121, official plan amendment 59, and file number 16010421, zoning bylaw amendment. The recommendation is that the report PD 35 2021 regarding the recommendation report official plan amendment for 6659 Regional Road 20 Greek Association and Mars Home Smithville West Inc. file number 17010121 official plan amendment 59 file number 16010421 zoning bylaw amendment dated April 12th 2021 be received, and that section 3417 of the Planning Act apply, and that no further public meeting is required. And the official plan amendment 59 as found in attachment 4 be approved, and that staff circulate notice of approval in accordance with the Planning Act. And finally, that the application for zoning bylaw amendment 16010421 initiated by the Greek Association and Mars Home Smithville West Inc. be approved. If I can get a mover. And I got Mayor Bylsma and Councilor Ganam. Oh, actually, I'll go with Councilor Yonker. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
All right, I have Councilor Rayner.
Yes, Mr. Chair, was this the one where the gentleman from IBI spoke up earlier?
Yes, that is correct.
Then I have some, I just have a comment to make, and I found it rather humorous, but I'm going to say it anyways, because it does sound a little silly, but the gentleman said that he was pleased with the recommendation and the speed that the planning department provided with regards to this matter. I believe what Mr. Treble did was exactly what the Greek and Mars Homes wanted. And he said, I agree with it, but if it's what you wanted, of course you were going to agree with it. Why would you disagree with something that you got what you wanted? It seems rather a weird statement to say.
Okay, do you have a question, or are you just pointing?
No,
out
it just seemed weird to me that they agreed that they liked what they got, but they got what they wanted. So obviously you're going to agree. You're not going to disagree with something you want. So it just seemed like a rather frivolous statement. But anyways,
I think they're just showing that they appreciate the speediness you got done. They got exactly what they want. I don't think there's anything
they
wrong
got
with
everything they want. You're cake
Yeah,
and they
well,
give it too. So of course you're going to be happy.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with admitting when someone's happy and they're pleased with the outcome. So do you have an actual question or another comment, or is that it, sir?
No, that's just it. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Not seeing any. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Support.
And opposed?
Yep.
All right, that carries. Moving forward to 9.7, P4721, Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, recommendation report, PD 42, 2021, proposal to commence street naming consultation process for St. Catherine Street, Regional Road 20, Smithville. And the recommendation there is that report PD 42, 2021 regarding the recommendation report proposal to commence street naming consultation process for St. Catherine Street, Regional Road 20, Smithville, Ontario, dated April 12th, 2021 be received, and that staff be authorized to commence the street naming notification and consultation process. So if I can get somebody to move that. Councillor Braderick, seconder, Councillor Trombetta. Any questions or comments? Not seeing or hearing any. I'm going to call a question. All those in favor?
Support.
All right, and I believe that's everybody, so that carries. Okay, moving to 9.8, PD 4821. Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, recommendation report, PD 43, 2021, update on future of the regional lagoon. Sorry, having a tough night speaking tonight for some reason. Recommendation, that report, PD 43, 2021, relating to the recommendation report, update on the future of the regional lagoons in Smithville, dated April 12, 2021, be received, and that staff and regional council representatives keep committee and council informed as the risk assessment process and possible disposal of land process unfolds over the next few years. And that staff be and are hereby authorized to notify the region of potential interest in these lands by the Township of West Lincoln once they are deemed cleaned for trail and or park purposes. So I'm going to need somebody to move that for me.
I'll move that.
I have Councillor Yonker. Can I get somebody to second that? I have Councillor Trombetta. And any questions or comments? I'll go look at Councillor Yonker first. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right, Councillor Rayner.
Yes, was this going back a number of months ago to the presentation by Councillor Yonker and our regional Councillor Witteveen, where we had a photo op of all the wildlife relating to the lagoons and the direction that these gentlemen wish to see? Is this the second part of this now? Is this actually starting to be where we're heading?
That is correct, sir. That was brought forward by Councillor Yonker, and that's what we're looking at tonight is a chance to kind of express our interest in potentially having opportunity to, I guess, maybe purchase this or assume this somehow down the road from the region to, turn into some kind of park or sanctuary. So yes, this is the response to that original motion.
Further question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
With regards to this, had Councillor Yonker and Regional Councillor Witteveen not made that presentation, would this still be in limbo? Or was this a direction they were going and they got wind of it and they said, hey, this is a great idea, let's go in this direction? I'm pleased that we're heading in a direction where we're going to do something hopefully to the advantage of the Township of West Lincoln and utilize this for the purposes that Councillor Yonker mentioned. But how did this get going? Was their presentation what started this process, or was this process on its way at the time anyways?
So from my understanding and from my recollection, this was actually prompted and initiated by Councillor Yonker's presentation. And that I don't believe, as far as the township's involvement in this matter, was not on our plate by any means. So this was brought up by Councillor Yonker and also, I guess, supported by Councillor Witteveen, or Regional Councillor Witteveen, as far as something to be aware of what could possibly be coming down the road. And staff had to look into whether or not to express some interest. But I'll go to Councillor Yonker. I see his hand up there. Maybe he wants to add a note here.
Yeah, basically, you can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, basically what happened is Regional Councillor Witteveen reached out to me, as well as a couple residents in Smithville, particularly one, the name's escaping me at the moment, doesn't matter. He reached out to me about what's back there behind their subdivision, Alma Acres, and just thought it would be prudent for us as a town to express interest and to see where it can go. Yes, there's going to be some, we have to, the region is keeping an eye on it right now. It's their responsibility, right? The contamination, but the wildlife is plentiful there. And because of Councillor Witteveen reaching out to me from somebody he knows and somebody that I know in that subdivision, saying, wow, people, there's a lot of wildlife out there that we might want to protect that area for them. So it basically came to my attention through Councillor Witteveen and the resident in Smithville. So, and yeah, I'm glad that the staff came back and has reported what they have, and yeah, we'll definitely have to keep an eye on things and see where it goes. But I think anybody that walks back there, like Councillor Riley has done, will say, wow, that's a pretty big, beautiful property. So there's been, where it goes, we don't know, but we want to make sure the region knows that we're interested in it, if at all possible, feasibly, financially, that makes sense that we keep it the way it is, but there's risk in anything, right? So I like the report town staff has put forward. It makes sense, and I'm pretty excited to see that we're at least letting the region know that there's interest here. So good.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Rayner?
Yeah, I was just curious how Councillor Witteveen got wind that the region might be disposing of this property, that's all.
I'm gonna just suggest that I don't think anybody had wind that is being disposed, and I would suggest that maybe you reach out to Councillor Witteveen if you want to understand how he be. Oh, I see Mayor Billsman might have a response to that. So go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
It was something that I raised when I shortly after I got elected, and I sat down with the director of planning for the very first time. And I also know that the NPCA, there was some interest from the NPCA and our location as well. So I don't know if that was a bit of a trigger as well, but it's a property that we're well known has become surplus for a very long time, and I think that had some of the there was some impetus there as well. So there's interest. I think it's a property that kind of comes onto the radar at every term for some interest or not. So maybe this is the term we actually find a purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anything else, Councillor Rayner?
No, I think the mayor said it well. Thank you.
Perfect. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Not seeing. I'll just mention that I do agree with everyone here. I think this is one of these unique situations that would really help, I think, even further the identity of West Lincoln, to have some kind of a wildlife sanctuary out there. As Councillor Yonker mentioned, I have been out there myself, with my family, and it's a beautiful area. Certainly look forward to seeing what, if the township can consume this, or if the region will be willing to partner with it, or however we can get maybe some kind of organization to help kind of oversee and fundraise to, help include into our parks and trails master plan. And I think there's just the possibility of having that as even not so much like a tourist attraction, but I think it would draw interest even within our own community, being able to go out there for hikes and walks. And like as Councillor Yonker has mentioned, there's lots of wildlife out there, and it's, you know, quite breathtaking to have something like that in our own backyard and not really have an easy accessibility to it. So it'd be nice to include that some point down the road. So anyways, all that being said, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Support.
All right. And oppose? Not seeing any. Yeah. And so that carries. So we're going to move forward to 9.9. Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, recommendation report, PD 48, 2021, Spring Creek Secondary Plan, next steps. So the recommendation is that report number PD 48, 2021, relating to the recommendation report, Spring Creek Secondary Plan, next steps, dated April 12th, 2021, be received, and that staff be and are hereby authorized to commission MHBC planning to undertake the concepts and plan design at an upset limit of $7,200 to be charged to the planning external consultant line of the operating budget, and that staff report back on the concept plan and final secondary plan amendment at a future planning, building, and environmental committee meeting. And I'm gonna ask if I can get a mover for that. I got Mayor Belsman and Councillor Ganan. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you. Through the Director of Planning. Brian, how long do you figure it'll take before you get back to us?
Through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that it'll be somewhere in the range of 6 to 8 weeks to do this work. So I would expect we'll be back, I'm hoping by June. That might be a little tight, but that's kind of my goal is June if possible.
Well, that's impressive. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments from anyone? All right, not seeing any. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Support.
Okay, and that carries unanimously. All right, moving to 9.10. Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble, recommendation report, PD 49, 2021, request to amend the Beds of Navigable Waters Act. Recommendation report, PD 49, 2021, related to recommendation request to amend the Beds of Navigable Waters Act dated April 12, 2021 be received, and that council for the Township of West Lincoln hereby request Sam Oosterhoff, MPP, on our behalf and for the benefit of all lower and upper tier municipalities who may be affected by the Beds and Navigable Waters Act to amend the act such that the affected lower and upper tier municipalities is also required to be served and with notice when an application for natural severance is filed with the courts, and that Township Legal Counsel be notified of this resolution, and that the mayor and staff be authorized to discuss this matter with MPP Oosterhoff as required, and that support of all municipalities in Ontario be sought through AMO and with direct requests for support from all local Niagara region municipalities. So if I can get a mover. I got Councillor Broderick and a seconder, Mayor Bylsma. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
All right, go for it.
Due to Mr. Treble, any idea what precipitated this, or should I say?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is, as you're aware, one file that we've had confidential discussions about that is certainly one of the triggers. But we've had a number of natural severance applications through the Boundaries of Navigable Waters Act now over the last 15 years or so, and it seems odd that we don't have an opportunity for input into that process. So staff have been contemplating this for some time. In fact, you'll see there's at least one decision of the courts that makes note of the fact that there's been no effort to make an amendment to the Boundaries Act, which is like from the 1800s. It's been around for a long time. So it was time to raise the question and see whether or not there's any way that we could get the act amended so that we could require that notice be provided to the local municipality as part of the application to the court. Mr. Chair, I've also now had a chance to have a really brief discussion with the MPP, Mr. Oosterhoff, and his recommendation was exactly what we're proposing. I just talked to him at 4:30 today, but his recommendation was that we should seek support from area municipalities and through AMO of local municipalities. He certainly had no problem with the concept of asking that we be provided notice, and was going to do some research on his behalf to understand exactly how he could carry this request forward. He said if there was some sort of a veto request or something like that that we were asking for, he'd have some concerns, but simply asking that they serve notice on the municipality, he thought was quite appropriate as well. So he's doing some research for us already and supported our concept of reaching out to other municipalities to get their support.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chair,
Go for it.
through to Mr. Treble, I thought the Beds of Navigable Waters Act was a federal law. Is you telling me it's a provincial law?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is a provincial law. The Boundaries of Navigable Waters Act is provincial. It's ironic, though. It means that the lands are owned by the Crown should they have never been conveyed in the first place, which I think is the Queen. So that would presumably be federal at that point.
Right.
But the review and the act is provincial, and it's the Ministry of Natural Resources of the province that's the one that acts on behalf of the Crown somehow.
Right. Well, I know for a fact it goes to the Queen.
Yes.
And so that's why I thought it was federal through the Crown. Therefore, it's federal because it goes across the pond, as my wife would say, who was born on London and the other side. Yeah, so that's why I thought it was a federal, because it doesn't remain in Canadian, supposedly. It goes to the Queen, who probably doesn't even know she owns this property. That's all I got. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Not hearing any. I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? And opposed? All right. That carries. So that's it for staff reports. We're going to move to other business. Item P5121, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, redevelopment charge bylaw LPAT update, and it's a verbal update. So Brian, if you want to take a stab at that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to sort of make sure the committee is fully informed. I think last month I mentioned the fact that the LPAT hearing had been moved up to the week after planning committee. So I forget the date now, but something like March the 15th, I think, was the hearing date. And the settlement that we had reached with the Niagara Home Builders Association was presented to LPAT on that day. And 2 days later, a written decision was issued by the chair who heard this case, and they have supported the settlement as presented to the board. So the settlement that both parties reached was something that the LPAT tribunal was willing to accept. And so we are now done with that file as well. There's no longer that file before LPAT as an open file. It does lead to some work on our treasurer's part to refund some of the development charge that was collected for some of the permits since the bylaw was first passed in 2019. And she's working right now on the proper way by which to make that happen. So that will happen in due course as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And assuming no one else has any questions here, I can go to item 5221, building permit process update. So it's a verbal update as well. So I'll leave you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will say a few things, and I suspect Bev will have a couple of points that she'll want to add as well. I just wanted to make sure that council was aware of the fact that this is a good problem in many respects, but our building permit applications are significantly up this year. Not sure if that's because of COVID or not, or whether it's just total coincidence, but permits are up. Expectations of the community for quick turnaround are up, and it's somewhat difficult with the stay-at-home order to be as efficient in processing as if we were all around the table at the office making this happen. So I just wanted to give council a bit of a heads up that it is likely from time to time you will have an inquiry or two around status of permits. Just today, I spoke to the secretary in building to attempt to do a little bit of a streamline of the process so that planning review and building review are happening a little bit more concurrently right now than normal, rather than a linear process. We're going to have the two kind of going parallel. That could cause a few hiccups from time to time, but the goal is to try and make sure things are moving as good as possible. But just wanted you guys to be aware that there is some heavy pressure on staff in building right now. And with that in mind, Bev and I have spoken and have a couple of strategies in terms of some steps to try and get the building department up to full staff and do a bit of a review of future needs of the department as well. So you'll be hearing from us again with respect to what we might need to do inside the building department to be able to process applications efficiently going forward as well. Bev, I don't know if I covered everything or whether you want to add, but that's it for me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Brian, I think if you're okay to you, Chair, you did raise the points that we wanted to make sure we covered off. But to the rest of council, we could use your assistance in the next while, just to help explain. Whereas I think we've actually been creatures of our own problem, where our turnaround times have been excellent, and we are not going to be as timely as we have been in the past with the extra number of permits that have been coming in. I think we're at 86 at this point right now, and last year we would have been at 50. So that does speak to the difference in the volumes, which is a great thing for the community. But that's also pool permits and things like that that people are going to be quite anxious about. So you, with your help, if you get calls, please just advise that the process is going on. We are doing our best, and we will continue to do so. And as Brian mentioned as well, we've been trying to figure out different ways to resource this area, whether it's a partnership or looking at shared services. That process continues to go on. And we're not only concerned about now, but we are concerned about the fact that we will have a lot of growth in the future, and when we have to make sure that we're resourced appropriately for that. So thanks for the opportunity to give this committee an update on this matter.
Perfect. I see Mayor Billsma has raised his hand, so.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, again, just like we had to meet kind of intermediately with respect to the patios, it's been driven by the nice weather. Certainly the ground is dried up and there's a lot of excavations, and you don't have the usual muck, and you know, that kind of inhibits some of that. So it's very understandable, but I'm glad to hear that staff is doing their best to continue to make the municipality run smooth and efficient. So thank you.
Perfect. Oh, go ahead.
I just thank you for raising that, and because I know when people are anxious to get going with something, they still have to do a permit process. And just to remind everybody that if they don't do a permit process, they will still have to do a permit process, and then they will be charged double. So again, when you're doing your communications, I think it'd be really healthy to share that information as well.
Do we have anything on the site that kind of highlights that, especially those who try to think they're circumventing the situation? Is that something that we have that can be shared a little bit more, like even through social media?
That's a test of a question I'm going to have.
Right.
But I appreciate the heads up to do so.
Okay. So, all right. So that being the case, I don't see any other questions. So we can move on to item P5320, which is just members of committee, other business matters of informative nature. So I'll go around. I see Councillor Ganam with her hand up first. So Councillor Ganam, floor is yours.
Yes, just very quickly. It's not part of planning, but it would be a very late thank you if I waited until council. The blood donor clinic on April the 2nd was extremely successful, considering 4 or 5 days before, there were huge holes in the number of donors that we're looking at coming out that day. So I did want to thank you, Councillor Riley, and also our CAO, Bev Hendry, for the tweets and the reminders that you put out, however you did, whenever you did, to try to make people aware of just how great the need was for blood. And as it turns out, the clinic provided 77 units of blood, which is a remarkable number given the circumstances. So thanks to both of you, and thanks to the donors who came out. Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? No, not seeing any. Oh, I got, yep.
Mr. Chair.
oh, hold on one second. I have Director of Planning, Brian Treble.
I'll be quick, Mr. Chair. I just had indicated to you that I'd like to give a little bit of an update on Gypsy Moth from the
Yes.
presentation last month.
Right.
The deadline for submitting applications to the Gypsy Moth spray program for 2021 was last week. The last day for getting payment in was on the 9th, which I believe was Friday. And so I understand from communication with Paul Robertson over the weekend of Trees Unlimited that this is the largest spray program in 2021 that they have coordinated in 20 years, and that the majority of the acres that will be sprayed are in Westlink.
Wow.
So he doesn't have everything completely tallied yet because of the closing just happening on Friday. And they're still working with, he says here, 30 landowners to finalize their applications and get them into the process. But he suspects that they will reach the maximum amount of land that they have sprayed to actually spray for the 2021 season. So I think that's good news in some respects, that our residents were proactive enough to sign up and get involved. But he goes on to say that he knows very well that there'll be many, 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 in fact, he says hundreds, who realize that they're too late. And so he is also speaking with ground sprayers such as Arborwood. And he mentions here Buchanan Expert Tree Care out of Font Hill, and he's intending to speak to Davy Tree as well. So in the event that the air spray is not available because they signed up too late, he will have others sort of on the ready to step in and assist as well. So I thought I would just share that with you. It's fairly hot off the press, but I just wanted to share that information to keep you guys in the loop.
Perfect. I appreciate that. And then Councillor Rayner, I think I heard.
Yes, thank you. That was part of what I was going to discuss. Yeah, I'm one of those many that signed up for it. In fact, their helicopter usually lands on a truck in my field and reloads and takes off because there's so much to be sprayed in the area that they've got to keep reloading the helicopter all the time because it can only go so far. I've also used Arborwood because of the fact that the gypsy moss are so thick that Trees Unlimited at times are projecting to get between 80 and 90%. But when the trees are so heavy, 90% of a very large figure is still a heck of a lot of gypsy moss left, and their spraying is finished. So I call Arborwood in, and they come up with the big fire hoses, and they hammer the trees that are the most significant and important to me, especially the very large white oaks. And anything you can do to, because it takes about 5-6 generations to have a tree that size, and it's so quickly and easy to lose them. It's just unbelievable how fast that they strip a tree. It's a beautiful green tree, and a week later it looks like it's January tree. You think it's in the middle of winter. It's unbelievable what they can do. They're so destructive. Anyways, that was the one point. The other point was I asked Mr. Mayor a while ago to do this, and I hate to bring it up again, but the school is off this week, and my wife and I went in to do grocery shopping, and I had to go 40 kilometers in front of a school that had nobody there. The lights were all flashing and everything else. It was just wonderful, but somebody forgot to turn the lights off this week because there's no sense going 40K where there's not a single car in the parking lot, not a child running anywhere. So I would like to go at least 50K when I have the opportunity every once in a while to do that. I imagine it's run by the region. I would think it was just a switch on, switch off, but whatever the case may be, there's no sense having those lights flashing morning and afternoon when there's no school. So if you'd be kind enough to pass that on, I'm sure it's probably something very simple to do.
I'll pass it on, you speed demon.
Yeah, I'm going all of 50. That's burning rubber, baby. Thanks very much.
I'm happy to see that you're actually paying attention to the speed limit. So that's great.
Yeah, well, it's,
All right. So, okay. So just going to go back to the room one more time. Any other questions, or I guess anybody want to report on any business matters of form nature? Okay, we're going to move on to new item of business. Any new items of business? Looking around the room. Oh, Councilor Broderick.
Yes, I have a motion to read off, Chair.
Oh, okay.
Moved by myself, Councillor Shelley Broderick, that a new item of business be introduced, being a confidential matter relating to the Emergency Operations Committee roles and responsibility.
All right, so I'm gonna need a seconder for that. I'm Councillor Ganan. And I'm gonna go to the clerk just for clarification here. We have this on the table now, but because it's confidential, we can't speak to it. So does this go to an immediate vote, or does this require a motion to go into close?
We now require a motion, Mr. Chair, to go into closed session.
Okay, so
And-
then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, we need something to go, yes, to go into closed session, which we will read out the exemptions.
Okay, so do we have to, if I could just confirm, because I haven't had to do this as chair before, so I just need clarification. Do we have to vote on doing this first and then go and do the motion for the vote? Okay.
Yes.
So perfect. So there's no conversation here. We have a mover and a seconder. I'm going to call the question, and then after that, we'll do the go in the close part. So all those in favor of what Councillor Broderick's motion just presented? And opposed? Councillor Rayner, I have not heard your vote.
That's right, Mr. Mayor, because if it's what I think it is, this was public, and therefore this should be dealt with in a public way. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but anything to deal with anything that happened in the public.
So,
should not be done
Councillor Rayner, can
confidential.
I just get your vote at this time?
Then I don't know the reasoning behind, because you're not telling me, so I can't support it.
Okay.
Well, you're indirectly telling me, but I don't know the background behind it, but I got a pretty good idea what it is.
Okay.
and
So
I don't
this
think
is,
it's
so
held in
Councillor, I
confidence.
get it. So you just voted no.
You keep
I just wanna-
asking me and pushing me. The answer is I oppose.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get clear for, we're not supposed to have a conversation about this right now. We're following
I
the
understand,
bylaw.
it's just-
Okay, so
Yeah,
that
okay.
means it's a 3-3. I'm gonna vote to support this. So it passes. Okay, so the next thing is we need a mover and a seconder to go into close.
Chair, I do have a motion to go into close. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, sorry, I got ahead there.
I don't mean to interrupt Mr. Chair, but who seconded that motion, that first motion?
Councillor Ganan.
Again, sorry, thank you very much.
So moved by myself, Councillor Shelley Broderick, that the next portion of this meeting be closed to the public to consider the following pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001. Read Emergency Operations Committee's roles and responsibilities, applicable closed session exemption, matters about identifiable individual, including municipal board or local board employees.
All right. So Councillor Broderick moves that. And then we have, who would like, sorry, I need a seconder for that. I have Councillor Ganan again. And so I guess we just call the vote to go into close. All those in favor? Okay. And opposed?
Opposed.
All right, so that carries. So we are now in closed session. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm just checking here. I think I just got an email from IT for our closed session meeting. So at this point, if there's anybody in the gallery, if you're hanging on for the tail end here, just hang tight. We'll be back at some point shortly. I don't know.
I got you.
You
Yeah,
have to pull
I'm
over
here.
for a quick break or something.
Yep.
All right, so at this point, I need a mover to go back into open. I got Councillor Trombetta and Councillor Rayner. All those in favor in going back into open session? Perfect.
Support.
Okay, perfect. So we're back in open session. So I have, I'm sorry, I'll go to our clerk. Jessica.
Sorry, can you just state the time?
Sorry, yes, this, oh, I don't have my thing in front of me, that's why. So the meeting now opens at 8:59 PM.
Thank you.
I don't have my, let me bring it back up in front of me, that might help. Okay, so to everybody who's still here, thank you for your patience. We do appreciate that. Coming out of that, we do have a motion. And so I'm going to go to Councillor Broderick for that motion.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself, Councillor Shelley Broderick, that Mayor Bylsma be immediately removed from the Emergency Operations Committee and replaced by Councillor Ganand for the remainder of this term of council. And Mayor Bylsma no longer participates in further media releases from the municipality on any items pertaining to COVID-19. And a media release is put out by the Emergency Operations Committee as quickly as possible that confirms the importance of residents of West Lincoln to adhere to all public health measures and stay-at-home orders, and that the above be put into place immediately and prior to ratification of council.
Okay, so I have a mover. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Trombetta. All right, so it's on the table, and this is the last chance to have any questions or comments in relation to this. Not hearing any. I'm going to actually request. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, can I just ask for a clarification?
Yes.
The EOC, does that stand for Emergency Operation Committee or Emergency Operations Center?
So my understanding
is
is
that fair for you, Mr. Chair?
So I'll go to clarification to the CEO or the clerk, but my understanding is it's supposed to read as center. Yeah, I'm seeing a nod. Yes. So yes, that's supposed to be Emergency Operations Center. So just a little oversight. So, okay. So I have Councillor Trombetta has his hand up. So Councillor Trombetta.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank Councillor Bradford for bringing this forward. I also would like to let the public know that us in West Lincoln do abide by the provincial law, and that we will continue to abide by the provincial law that is given to us by our provincial government. Due to the recent events that happened, West Lincoln is still abiding by the rules that have been handed down by the province, and we continue to fight COVID-19 as a community and as a council. Thank you, Councillor Riley.
Excellent. Well said. Anybody else wants to say anything? Before we go, I see Councillor Yonker one more time.
Yeah, basically what I wanted to say is publicly is that I agree with the mayor and what he did. I support him. What we need to realize as council right now, we are removing from the Emergency Operations Center a person that has been trained for an emergency. And we are actually going to vote to remove a person that's been trained to deal with an emergency and replace him immediately without proper training. I got a big concern there that I want to voice publicly.
Okay, that's noted for the record. I'll go back. Does anybody else have a question or comment? I see you, Councillor Trombetta, so I'll make sure.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chair. And I hear Councillor Yonker's comments, but we do have a fire chief that is very trained and can obviously relay the training protocols to a member of council that has taken this role on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back. Oh, Councillor Broderick.
Through you, Chair, to the CAO, if she could give a brief summary to the public in regards to the membership of the Emergency Operations Center so that they can feel confident in the continued operations of that center and supporting any emergency that may come other than COVID-19 or continuing to fight COVID-19.
So, Councillor, I'm going to ask you to maybe seems like a very broad question. Are you asking specifically about a specific role? Because there's many different roles that each member of that center have a part in. Or are you just looking for a general purpose of the EOC?
I think I'm just looking for a couple of sentences that would be able to provide the community with some confidence in the ability to still continually run the Emergency Operations Center.
Okay,
from the CAO.
Okay, so Madam CEO, maybe if you could respond, I think the idea is to ensure the public that our staff have their best interest.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Chair Riley, through to Councillor Broderick. I think what the best way to capture this is that under the Emergency Plans Act, and when an emergency plan or emergency situation is identified, then the Emergency Operations Center kicks into action. And what it is it's a group of people from around most of the departments within the organization, in our case, within the municipality, so that we can quickly respond to matters that are related to the operation of the entity, and in this case being the municipality. This is a very long standing emergency operations center. We've been in place since March of 2020 when COVID first came about. So we've been doing this now for many weeks now. We run a meeting every single Monday. At the beginning, we were running a little bit more frequently. So Mondays are an EOC meeting. Sometimes they last 15 minutes, sometimes they last an hour. And what happens at those meetings is we go around the table and we do updates from the different areas of responsibility. So the fire chief has the CEMC. He is the Community Emergency Management Coordinator, and he has a place on many other regional and provincial tables. He gives us updates. The Director of Public Works gives an operational update. We go through to finance, to clerks, to our Director of Planning, who doesn't give a planning update, but he gives an information and a bylaw perspective. The library is also represented. IT sits on that committee as well. So many of the operational functions of the organization report through that, and we just make sure that, especially over the last year, we just listen to the new orders that have been coming down in the different colors and different names, and we adjust our operation, and then we make sure that that gets implemented quickly, and that we also communicate those changes. So everything that we have done is being in relation to the provincial direction as well as public health guidance.
Excellent, thank you. So I don't know if there's anybody else. If not, I'll make my last comments and then we'll go. Okay, so I'm just going to mention that I think this course of direction that committee has made is the correct course of direction. I think, as much as I understand Councillor Yonkers expressed concerns, I think it's also important to note that staff does all the heavy lifting. We've been reminded time and time again that the role of the elected official who sits on this board is there for observation and also as the media contact, and to ensure that that information that is happening in there is relayed to the community. I think this restores confidence that could possibly have been lost given recent situation that transpired. And I think this committee's, has not skipped a beat and wasted a moment in trying to rectify this matter. I am also going to ask the clerk for a recorded vote.
I'll leave that with Jessica.
Okay, so Councillor Bradrick. Can you hear me? Oh.
Support.
Mayor Bylsma.
Opposed.
Councillor Ganan.
Support.
Councillor Jonker.
Opposed.
Councillor Rayner.
Councillor Rayner, can't hear you. His mouth said support, but well, maybe we can come back to him if he comes back on.
I think you might have hit
Leave.
the
room. All right. So I would ask the deputy clerk to move on to the next person for now.
Councillor Trombetta.
Support. Support.
Got you. Thank you. Just have to wait for Councillor Rayner.
Sorry, Jessica, I thought you were waiting for me. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Chair, maybe you can get him on the phone and he can do it over your computer screen.
Okay.
What his vote can be, like we've done in the past.
I'm sorry, did Councillor Ganan get asked? Okay, all right.
Can't read the chair's lips that fast. I don't know if anybody can.
Yeah. Well, you can ask the chair, the voter, does he not vote?
Looks like they're planning. This is a little long.
Okay. All right. So Councilor Rayner's on the phone here. Deputy Clerk, I'm going to ask you to ask him again. Just go through the same process.
Is that actual his name on there, Mr. Chair?
I hope it
Just see on my little phone.
Yeah, he wanted it closer. So anyways, so
Councilor Rayner, is that you? Can you confirm?
Correct. I hear that.
okay.
So Councilor Rayner, do you support or oppose the motion?
Support.
And Councilor Riley?
I support as well.
And that is 3-2, and that carries.
3-2. There should
That
be
doesn't make
going to be
sense.
5-2.
Yeah.
It'd be 5-2.
Sorry, there's 5-2. That carries.
Okay. So thank you for that. At this point, it brings us to adjournment. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 9:11 p.m.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
everyone.
Good night.